Harkening back to his days overseeing NASCAR, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark is outmaneuvering the competition, most notably Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff. Also, one of my questions has been answered, finally answered, about the exit fees Texas and Oklahoma are paying to the Big 12, and is it making the Legacy 8 schools whole? We want to talk about all that in this episode, so pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and let's talk about it. What is going on, college sports fans, Big 12 fans, and fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Couz. Welcome into another edition of Couz's Corner. So pull up that chair and let me serve you up another shot of top shelf college football content. What I want to talk about first is Brett Yormark. Brett Yormark, when he got hired as the Big 12 commissioner, there was three things he said he wanted to accomplish in year one. Number one, he wanted to get a new TV deal done for the conference. Check. Boxes checked. That's been done. Number two, he wanted to negotiate the exit of Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC. Box check. That's done. That's marked off the list. Number three thing, which has not been accomplished yet, but he's working on, is conference expansion. He's made it clear. He's been transparent and honest. He wants to get in the fourth time zone. They were already in the Eastern time zone with West Virginia, then with the additions of Cincinnati and UCF. Obviously, they've always been in the Central time zone anyway, and then they got in the Mountain time zone by adding BYU. So there's one time zone missing from the Big 12. It's the Pacific, and he wants in. He's been clear about that. We've all heard talks about them talking with Gonzaga to be a basketball-only member. That would get them into the fourth time zone, at least for basketball. But we all know football drives the bus here. And I don't think it's a secret. Matter of fact, it's even been reported by multiple media outlets that the Big 12 has talked to what they call the four corner schools of the Pac-12, Utah, Colorado, Arizona. I've heard rumors that they've talked to other Pac-12 teams. Matter of fact, I've heard rumors that they've talked to every Pac-12 team except Cal and Stanford. So whether that's true or not, I have no idea, but that is a rumor that's out there. But it's actually been reported by legit media outlets that the four corner schools have shown or have at least had conversations about potentially joining the Big 12. Now, Brett Yormark's ability to get that media deal done so quickly, he did it in like 3 months, folks. Not only that, he jumped in line. The Pac-12's media deal was supposed to expire a year before the Big 12's was. But Brett Yormark jumped in line, got ahead of the Pac-12, was able to get a media deal, an extension really is what it ended up being of their current media deal, but they got a bump in pay. Even with the Oklahoma and Texas leaving, the Big 12 is going to make more money. Folks, nobody thought that was going to happen. People were predicting they might lose 50% or more of their TV revenue. But he got a bump in pay. I know it's not going to be anywhere near what the SEC and Big Ten are making, but the fact he was able to accomplish that after losing their two big brands, pretty remarkable. And the fact he jumped in line to do it ahead of the Pac-12, which is now causing the Pac-12 a lot of headache because they've been unable to get their deal done, at least not yet. And here we are, they're only 18 months away from their deal expiring, which in the sports and media industry is almost unheard of. Deals are usually done by now. They're usually signed, sealed, delivered, everything done. Big 12's already signed their grant of rights and everything. And I know some people say, well, they haven't signed the grant of rights yet. They have signed it. Brett Yormark said that himself in a recent interview, which I'll touch on in a minute. But that being said, I want you to listen to this comment about Brett Yormark that was made recently on the Sports Media Podcast with Andrew Marchand John Ourand. For those of you who don't know who those guys are, they're writers who cover the business of sports. Andrew Marchand works for the New York Times. John Ourand works for the Sports Business Journal, and they both write and cover the industry, the sports media industry. So they're experts in the field. Listen to this comment that was made about Brett Yormark.
Who do you got? Who's up?
So my who's up, I spent all week in Phoenix at the Super Bowl talking with media executives and NFL executives. Of course, my who's up has nothing to do with football, professional football, or media. It's Brett Yormark of the Big 12. And it's Brett Yormark for a couple of reasons. One, you talk to media executives, they're blown away by Yormark and the job that Yormark has done. When he came, the Big 12 was in disarray, and he was able to work out a media deal. He was able to work out a deal to have Texas and Oklahoma leave early and make it actually work for the conference. And the media executives I talked to, all of them mentioned Brett Yormark as somebody who's doing just a really credible job. So I want to make him who's up. I'm picking him this week because he engineered that deal to get Oklahoma and Texas to leave a year early. An exit fee of around $100 million that they're going to reallocate to all the Big 12 schools. So it's making the Big 12, more financially sound. And really, Andrew, we talk about this all the time, and they're not going to like this in Pac-12 offices. But it's clear now that he totally outmaneuvered the Pac-12 in getting his media deal finished early. And it might seem like a pretty obvious choice to make. It was not unanimous at the time. There were several people in the Big 12 that were saying, let's just hold out. The rates are only going to go up. Let's hold out. He decided, let's get certainty. Let's beat the Pac-12 to the punch, and let's get the deal done. He has the deals done with Fox and with ESPN, and the Big 12 is sitting very, very pretty right now. So Brett Yormark is my who's up.
So see, folks, Brett Yormark so far has been an absolute rock star as a commissioner of the Big 12. A lot of people say, oh, he's just a sleazy salesman. He's a timeshare salesman. Whatever he is, it's working, folks. He's done everything he said he was going to do, and even better than expected. He's even earning the respect of those in the industry. TV executives. Who do you think he has to have good relationships with in order to get deals done, folks? TV media executives. If they respect him, it's going to carry this conference a long way potentially in the future. Now, that's the question about the exit fees. Let's move on to that topic. I did a video recently. As a matter of fact, I've done a couple that talked about Texas and Oklahoma leaving early, the exit fees they're paying, and how that impacts the Legacy 8 members, which is Kansas, Kansas State, West Virginia, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Baylor, and TCU. The 8 remaining members of the Big 12 that aren't leaving, basically, and not counting the 4 new members. But Texas and Oklahoma, we all know a deal was done for them to leave the conference. I've done videos about the Legacy 8 members and how they had to pay $16 million to cover the cost for the 4 new members to join the league early. For UCF, Houston, BYU, and Cincinnati to join the league 2 years early, the current Big 12 members, the current 8 Big 12 members, had to give up $16 million. Now, to explain that to some folks who might be confused by that, because I've had some people on Twitter ask me what that means. Some people are confusing that with the new media deal. It's not based on the new media deal. The new media deal doesn't kick in until 2025, the one I mentioned earlier. That one includes the 4 new schools already, okay? The current media deal included the current 10 members, the 8 legacy members plus Texas and Oklahoma. Well, Fox and ESPN were not willing to pay extra money to the conference to add the 4 new schools. And they're not going to play for free, because you got to remember, 3 of the schools are walking away from the American Conference. They're walking away from that money. They're not going to play in the Big 12 for free. So the Big 12 had to some way come up with money for those 4 to pay those 4 schools. So the Legacy 8 members are taking a cut, taking part of the revenue and giving it to the new members. And it's up to $16 million per school to cover 2 years. It's $8 million a year. Oklahoma and Texas are paying $100 million in exit fees to the conference. Now, the exit fees, if they're not actually paying it in cash, it's just going to be taken out of their TV revenue that the conference will owe them for 22 and 23. It's $100 million, but $20 million of that has to go to Fox to cover the costs of losing Oklahoma and Texas football games for a year. So Fox is getting $20 million of the $100 million. That leaves $80 million to be divided up amongst the Legacy 8 members or used for other things. But if you do the math, $80 million divided by 8 schools is $10 million per school. And in my mind, I'm thinking, man, that's a $6 million gap. These schools are losing $6 million. And I had not been able to get a firm answer from, or at least I hadn't heard or read anywhere, whether that's the case, because some of the media reports said, the Texas and Oklahoma fees will make the Legacy 8 members whole. And I'm thinking, how are they whole? There's a $6 million gap. Finally, my question has been answered, and what I thought was confirmed. Listen to this clip. Brett Yormark, I mentioned earlier, he did a recent interview. Well, it was with John Wilner and John Canzano. They have their own podcast. 2 Pac-12 guys, 2 Pac-12 writers. Yormark was on their show, and here's a clip from that answers this question. Now, you got to listen carefully, because it's a one little subtle word in the middle of his answer that answers the question. Take a listen.
As it relates to the result and how it affects our schools, well, obviously, we had to fund expansion on a go-forward basis, the 4 new schools that are coming in July. And in many respects, we've been able to recoup some of that dilution with the exit fee for the continuing 8. So from a financial perspective, it was positive for us. But more than the financials, it provided clarity, and it gave us an opportunity to really think about our business on a go-forward basis, and to accelerate some of the things we're discussing internally as we are building our business, building our brand. So I'm really happy with the result, and took a little longer than I was hoping it would take, but deals of this magnitude usually do.
Did you hear Brett use the word "some" in there? He said it, and I'm paraphrasing. He said it will pay the Legacy 8 members back some of the money that they spent to add the 4 new teams. Some of the money, not all of the money. Some of the money. So that answers my question. There is going to be a gap. They're not getting paid back 100%. But however, apparently, and I'm not happy about that, by the way. I'm not a big fan about that happening, but everyone in leadership in the Big 12, including Brett Yormark, university presidents and ADs that I've heard talk about it, they all seem to think it was the right move. They felt like the conference needed to move forward. And this also opens up something else I want to talk about, which is the fact that they could also use that $80 million, potentially, to expand the league. And that's been reported in several different media outlets. You tie that in with Yormark's comments about wanting the Western time zone and the issues going on in the Pac-12 and the reports that the 4 corner schools have been talking with the Big 12 and their inability to get a media deal in the Pac-12 so far. It leaves the door open for that $80 million to be used to potentially add some Pac-12 teams. Now, all you in Pac-12 country, I'm not sitting here predicting that's going to happen. All I'm saying is it opens the door for it and leaves it open for it. And every day that goes by that the Pac-12 doesn't have a media deal, that door opens even wider, in my opinion. So, like I said, I'm not predicting it's going to happen, but it very well could if the Pac-12 can't get a good enough media deal, and they could still – and there's potential for them – if they see there's potential for them to make more money in the Big 12, especially considering, folks, they've got that Comcast overpayment deal to worry about too behind the scenes. The Pac-12's has to pay that $50 million back to Comcast that they got overpaid over 10 years. You've got to add that into the equation too. So it's very possible at the end of the day, if the Pac-12 either isn't able to secure a media deal or it's one that they can't live with, maybe they do. Maybe some of the schools do decide to move on to the Big 12. Who knows? Like I said, I think it's unlikely. If I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say you're looking at about 25-30% chance that they go to the Big 12. Some of the schools do. But I still think the most likely scenario is that the Pac-12 figures something out and ends up staying together, because I think at the end of the day, that's what they all want. But it's also going to come down to the almighty dollar. We know that. So it leaves the door open. And in a recent interview that was done on 365 Sports by Texas Tech President Lawrence Chovanec, who also happens to be the chairman of the Big 12, I think he confirmed that, and it's once again, this is subtle, so you have to listen closely, but I think he once again confirmed that the Big 12 is indeed talking with Pac-12 schools, and I don't think they're poaching schools. My friend Tony Altamore was on Twitter. He made a statement I disagreed with. He said that this interview, if you listen closely, Chovanec is almost admitting to tampering or poaching, whatever you want to call it. I don't see how in the world you can take that away from these comments, because we got to remember, folks, if the schools reach out to the conference first, it's not poaching. That opens the conversation, opens the door to the conversation. You're free to talk. And some of these schools may have reached out to the Big 12 months ago to at least kick the tires and have this conversation. And if they did that, then they're free to talk now. That's how this works. So I don't see how in the world you can rightfully accuse the Big 12 of trying to poach schools from another conference. But nonetheless, I digress. I'm going to play a clip of Dr. Chovanec's interview with the 365 Sports guys, and I'll link to this interview in the description if you want to watch the entire thing. Very good interview. I'm going to link to all the podcast episodes I'm playing for you, all the clips. I'm going to link to the full episodes in the description box, so check them out below. All very good interviews and very good episodes. But I think this comment by Chauvenac proves that they are talking to Pac-12 schools. Listen really close.
I think if you look at where the Big 12 is with regard to their TV deal, and you look at the situation the Pac-12 is still dealing with, and of course I'm not privy to the details there, I like our position. And I still think there's more to be discovered there. You know, the deal that we have does allow for some pro rata expansion possibilities. So if we bring in new members, ESPN as a partner is willing to contribute towards that distribution. So it gives us, I think, more strength in terms of expansion possibilities.
Do you think Brett Yormark is outmaneuvering George Kliavkoff and is doing a much better job running his conference? And two, do you think that the comment by Dr. Chauvenac is proof that the Big 12 is indeed talking to Pac-12 schools? Do you think I'm taking it out of context? Do you think it could be meaning something else? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you think also about Brett Yormark's comments in his interview with John Wilner and John Canzano. I've got links to Fanatics where you can go to do your Fanatics apparel shopping. That link will get you into the site. Anything you buy doesn't have to be the item shown. Anything you buy, I'll make a small commission from it. I've also got links to my merch store where you can get you a hoodie, a T-shirt, a coffee mug, whatever you want. You can join my channel, take advantage of members-only perks. You can make one-time donation using the Heart Thanks option. All that helps out my channel financially. If you want to support me for free, you can do it in 4 ways. You can like the video. You can share it with your friends. You can drop that comment that I mentioned. And last but not least, subscribe to my channel, folks. I'm getting closer and closer to that 5,000 subscriber mark. I need your help to get over that hump. So hit that button. I appreciate your support here on the channel. I appreciate you stopping by. Until the next episode, Q Country Roads.